One word. One hypnotist, Chris Jones. One word.
The One Word Chris Jones podcast. My buddy Chris Jones, of course. The word today, Chris, I know I haven't talked to you in a couple of months. I was giving you a chance to deal with what the word is today, fatherhood.
Fatherhood.
And, you know, on cue, I can hear her in the background.
Yeah, my daughter is so sweet she decided to join. Oh, no!
You didn't drop
I dropped the cell phone, not the baby.
Okay, I was going to say, uh-oh.
That's rule number one of parenthood.
Always make sure you don't drop the baby.
Sacrifice the phone, yeah.
So,
yeah.
When I first met you, you did not want to be a dad, ever. And now
I did not.
And now you've been a dad for a couple of months. How is it?
It's fantastic. I think my big fear was I was looking at all my gaps in my DNA, all my shortcomings as a person, and then I met someone who is really good at so many things I'm not good at, and so I felt like, all right, I could reproduce with her. That was my big transition.
Isn't it amazing the amount of love that you feel towards somebody that you've never met before?
Yeah, that's also very true.
So what was the most surprising thing about becoming a father?
You know, the first couple of days there's a lack of sleep. Now you're just like, all right, I'm over it. But it's also, all I do is stare at this child. She's almost 2 months old. She doesn't do much, just let me stare at her. And that's kind of enough.
So when you're staring at her, are you thinking about the future, the hopes, the dreams, the aspirations that you have as a dad? Or are you just looking at her just in amazement that you helped create that?
I think all of it. It's like, all right, you know, there's the Williams sisters, and their dad said, okay, you guys are going to play tennis. That's all there is to it. You're going to be millionaires. And I don't want to choose her destiny, but if I could help make sure she finds a path that makes her happy, that's all I want.
So the first things that comes to thought, the first thoughts that you had when you looked into her eyes the first time, what were you thinking, Chris?
So I secretly recorded her birth. And I hit a camera because I didn't know if the nurses and doctors were going to give me permission. So I have the audio, I have the video, and I was like yelling, "Oh my God, it's so beautiful! Oh my God, it's so beautiful!" Oh, and then my wife was still trying to push, like, "No, baby, like you get it, you're done, like you're done, you're good." And she had a really short umbilical cord. So they had to keep her low to like her legs, and she's like still trying to push. I'm like, "No, baby, stop pushing!" Like, she is here. You've done it. Yeah, it's pretty darn cool.
Did you cut the umbilical cord, Chris?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's you know, they got to give the man something to do. I mean, the nurses work a lot. The doctors show up and they catch, but and then they're like, "All right, man, here. Do this part you can't mess up."
Cut in between here and here. Okay.
Yeah, literally. They gave me scissors. Like, I'm not even going to trust you with a scalpel. Here. Just close this scissor right here. I was like, right here? Yeah. Duh. And then he's like, good job. And then he stitched up my wife.
Then, you know, at that point, when you get the bill now, you can just say, I was the one that did the operation. Nobody else had any scissors in their hand.
Oh, that's a good idea. Like, should I get a discount? I think so.
So
we were practicing hypnobirthing. Did I tell you about that?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it last time that we talked that you were going to try doing that. So did you do that?
That shit doesn't work.
You will have a pain-free childbirth.
Yeah. No, that does not work. No, everyone is different. Some people have done home birth. Some people have done hypnobirth. Her water broke at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and they had to induce labor because she wasn't dilating. And the nurses, the doctors, they don't want to keep checking because every time they touched and looked down there, we risk getting germs. And so they said, all right, you could be here for days, or we can give you this medicine that will create a natural induction, and it will hurt. So it was kind of like she had rapid fire, like menstrual cramps. And so that was a little bit more than the hypnosis could handle. But then she got the epidural, and she was like, hey, baby.
She loved you again for that short moment.
I'm ready to push this out.
When you talked about that, and you said before that you've never hypnotized your wife prior to that point, right?
Never, no. And, there is, internal conflicts of, I hope this works. I don't want my wife to be suffering. And then the external conflict of, she's like, you should be learning more about this. And I'm like, no, it's pretty straightforward. I just need to hypnotize you. She's like, all right, well, we need to practice. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's true. So a matter of like 30 minutes before bedtime, practicing 2-3 times a week. Having said all that, I'll try with another person for sure. Now that I know I've gotten myself into,
right,
I'll try again.
Is that maybe the next step in the Chris Jones one-word hypnotist career?
I don't know. I've been doing virtual shows. I've honestly been hypnotizing people through Zoom, still doing my college shows, and occasionally I get an in-person college show. I'd like to have a big, lofty goal. I'm writing down my goals and putting them into a box on 3x5 cards and putting that in a box. Yeah, once this kid starts supporting her own head weight, then I'll start doing more interesting things.
Since the last time we spoke, I ended up with COVID.
Yeah.
So I was one of the lucky ones, Chris. I had it easy. I had a cough, which I always have had. I've always had a cough. Just being a former radio guy, I think that I've always had that bad habit of, and a runny nose, and I was tired all the time.
Did you think you were going to get it, or you thought you were being safe enough?
I thought I was being safe enough. I thought that I'm a bartender. I wear a mask when I'm working. I wash my hands nonstop. I'm always using hand sanitizer when I go into a store. When I come out of a store, I don't even take off my mask until after I get into my car and hand sanitize. I thought I was doing everything that I should be doing, and I still ended up with it. And I think that maybe I may have caught it from maybe somebody at the bar where I work.
Yeah.
Maybe I rubbed my eye or something after I talked to somebody before I washed my hands or something.
Who knows? I don't know. That was going to be my question. How do you think you got it?
Yeah.
Where were you when you discovered that? Like, did you go to the hospital, like, I have a cough, or did you just happen to get tested?
Well, I went and got tested. Honest to God, I thought, I don't have it. I'm just doing it for solidarity, just to kind of show that, hey, I don't, My test came back positive immediately. I mean, within a couple of hours, I had the results of my test back, and it said that I had it. And so I got a call from the county health department. I got a call from Mayo Clinic out of Rochester, and I got a couple of other calls. And then, they asked a bunch of questions and where I thought I got it. But they interviewed me and wanted to know exactly where I was and how I thought I got it, and if I had any contact with anybody else that I may have given it to. We hear 14 days all the time, but they said 10 days from the time that I got my first encounter with it. And then my employer kept me off work for 15 total days. So basically I sat by myself for 2 weeks, and thank goodness that my family was out of town and gave me the dog to watch, so I had somebody to talk to. Are you afraid of getting it? Are you? Is that a fear that you have?
I am twofold. One, my dad's 74, and we have a baby, which, plus I have my manager, she has Lyme disease, so her immune system is not 100%. But, this thing's been around this year. They were saying, oh, kids don't get it or kids don't transmit it as well. It can still have underlying results that aren't positive. My whole goal is to keep the baby out of the hospital as much as possible.
Oh, absolutely.
So
you'd mentioned earlier that you're doing virtual shows. When do you think you'll get back to doing shows in front of people?
I did a show in Louisiana. It depends on the state, you know? It's kind of like football. Some schools are saying no to football. Some schools are saying yes to the season. I was in Louisiana. I did a show there. I flew in, flew out. That was cool. I hypnotized a woman while I was in Boston, and she was on Good Day New York. I hypnotized her from Boston through Zoom, which is like my coolest accomplishment as a hypnotist this year.
Find entertainer and hypnotist Chris Jones at hypnotistchrisjones.com. The One Word Chris Jones Podcast, a podcast for higher production.